Okay.
I've never asked you this before, but have you ever in your life prayed?
No.
No, it never comes to your mind.
No.
It's interesting.
That was my son, and despite not being shy about my atheism, I don't recall ever asking him the question before, and quite frankly, the answer hit me in a way I'd not anticipated. I grew up in a Roman Catholic household. Before I'd hit my teen years, I learned that my brother had become an atheist and would no longer be attending church with the family. He announced this during his first year of college, and as the youngest of five, it struck me as a dark and sinister position. I had no moment in recollection of where I didn't believe in a supreme being, and I couldn't imagine not believing in one. This intensified when I became a born-again Christian, so to speak, during my own freshman year in college, and I devoted myself to the Lord's work. My children were born into that household, but this one, being the youngest, saw his father become an atheist prior to his first long-term memories taking form. He doesn't remember that time. And so when I asked him, just after a bit of turbulence on this recent flight, it surprised me because I couldn't imagine what it would be like to give the concept of God no thought. Flights are a common circumstance for individuals to rediscover past memories of faith. The utter lack of control and direness of the situation, should anything go wrong, push our minds to reach for something to hold and control the situation. This theme was prominent the night before this flight when I was engaged in a conversation with a G-plus Christian presuppositionalist named MK. We had discussed another matter when we entered the following exchange. I had said, "Sorry, MK, I've been trying to get ready for a trip that I need to take tomorrow, but I'll try to get back to this Sunday and give you a proper response. Apologies and have a great Saturday." He replied, "As an atheist, you should take full responsibility. You should do a background check on the pilots. Make sure they're okay to fly before the plane takes off. And do your own mechanical check on the airplane to make sure it's functioning correctly. And even after you do all those things, you're still exhibiting faith by taking that flight. Atheists exhibit faith every day, my friend. And ultimately, that's what you're going to have to do with Jesus. Faith." And I responded, "Well, now if the plane goes down, I know who to blame." Wink! This is not an unusual point. The airplane faith argument is one I get a lot, especially from presuppositionalists who have a fetish for certainty. Their apologetic asserts as an a priori conclusion that God can give them certain knowledge. But they would charge the unbeliever has no such guarantee. I'll admit this is quite an advantage if this is in fact the case. By my lights, I'm forced to infer causal consistencies and make predictive decisions on courses of action, and I can get it wrong. I could lose my life were I to infer improperly and have undue confidence in my beliefs. In fact, the presuppositionalist would say I could lose my soul to such a reliance. So what is it that affords me the luxury of flying coach on Southwest? As it turns out, we can infer quite a bit from flights that take place every day. And as it turns out, quite a few people fly. And the odds of dying are not terribly high. In fact, if you flew every day for the rest of your life, it would take 19,000 years to succumb to a fatal accident. Why are there so few fatalities? In part, it's due to a strict safety protocol. In March, I was a judge at a regional robotics competition and, per usual, I had a lot of casual time with some engineers employed at the likes of Boeing, Northrop Grumman, and NASA's Jet Propulsion Laboratory. This year, over drinks, I actually asked a group of them why it is that incidences of catastrophic malfunctions in flights were so rare. One of them cited the fact that it's one of the few industries that requires a full accounting of causes when an accident occurs, that no case is closed until all of the data is vetted and every likely cause determined. In doing so, they ensure constant corrective action to mitigate uncertainty as best they can, that the machines are as near as possible to being perfectly reliable. In the United States, there are 50,000 FAA employees working to ensure a safe industry. The National Transportation and Safety Board has investigated 140,000 aviation incidents and issued 14,000 safety recommendations, with 73% being implemented. So clearly we can infer from safety protocols that we'll likely have success in reaching our destination. What is motivating this dedication to safety? It is in large part driven by economics. The commercial airline industry does $200 to $300 billion in revenue each year. There are 500,000 employees airbound each day. The commercial airline industry accounts for 10% of U.S. gross domestic product. Were it the case that flights have crashed with any small amount of frequency, the impact to consumer travel and the industry would be catastrophic. Safety is necessary given the horror associated with airplane crashes. It has a disproportionate fear attached to it due to the lack of control, number of individuals in a given accident, and the violence of the crash. As such, we can infer that there will be a strict protocol for screening and training of pilots, and a dedication to a workforce maintaining the mechanical reliability of the planes. And at its core, the mechanical reliability is ensured by the very same consistency of physics that allows me to take one step after another for all of my life with very few occasions of failure. It is the basic consistency of particles and fields interacting which allows me to even think of flying. But what of MK's case to me? Following my joke about knowing who would be responsible for my death, he continued, "No, although I sense you are joking, again, I can pray to whatever I want to. If it's not God's will, I am not the boss of God. He's the boss of me. What he says goes." I then followed up with the brief list of reasons I just rendered for you, and concluded, that's why I have belief-forming mechanisms that leverage justification to help get me through the day surviving. I wouldn't be typing this if we didn't have rational faculties, and while they are not foolproof, statistically they will get me to about 78 years of age on average in the US. Or I could pray and have no clue if it was doing anything. I'll take causal justification, please. He then followed up with, "And everyone felt the same until their plane went down. You're welcome. Pray to Jesus. Amen." But that's an odd rationale, right? I mean, who's doing the flying? And how many, not professing an active belief in God, call out in such times? Is it not likely that most who perish in air tragedies do so calling out to the divine for salvation? Do these catastrophic conversion opportunities conduce to planes being saved from disaster? So by what reason would I think that prayer is doing anything? Is this not akin to those who lose limb function, being the recipients of miracles, while those who are amputees fail to see a regrown limb at our behest? That planes full of devoted perish because that which they cry out to answers not yet? Is it that the dramatic reduction in air tragedies is due to increased faith and answered prayer? Or is it due to improved standards and practices on the part of engineers, mechanics, and pilots? Where is the percentage to be found which is covered by the supposed causal quality of prayer? And is it the case that they could announce the flight is full, divert someone like MK onto an untested plane, and simply have him ask for a moment of prayer before happily getting on board? Is his prayer really what it is he's putting his faith in? Are all those opting to board not just relying on the very same inferences which have borne out for me? Remember, MK states, "I can pray whatever I want to. If it's not God's will, I am not the boss of God. He's the boss of me. What he says goes." And everyone felt the same until their plane went down. But it surely did so with a number of people crying out. How is this faith at all like the reliability of the causal quality employed at all stages? And how, given that any plane which does go down, does so with a traceable causal quality, do we determine that God is operative if it literally can't be falsified? I could as much claim that my morning toast is the means by which I managed to get to work safely, and in the event that it does not bear out, it just changed its mind is all. For a time after I had become an atheist, old habits that hadn't died would return, and I would make some bargain to get some control back in times of uncertainty, such as in the case of some turbulence. But not anymore. And sure, my dependence on the future being as the past doesn't always bear out. I stand up and go take my first step, only to have my leg, which has fallen asleep, collapse under me. But I know the reason and can predict when such an occasion can be avoided if I'm mindful. And so here sits my son, who has never prayed and has never thought to pray to a god, and yet is on a flight headed for a campus day at one of the most prestigious universities in the nation, thanks in large part to years and years of committed hard work and being the benefactor of earned results. A belief in the causal quality of studying. But beyond that, to a compassion rooted in a pursuit of what is virtuous and predictively conduces to the well-being of himself and others. To a mindset that leaves him not wishing that something would happen, but rather a shown true principle that if he applies himself, he can progressively work towards whichever goals he chooses. A commitment to revision and even retraction where his beliefs don't find footing, with a scaling of confidence to that which finds warrant. Those who wish to assume some certainty, well, they can keep it, for such an unjustified assertion can be dismissed as readily as it is claimed. For me and my own, we'll take a causal predictive justification any day of the week. God, as it turns out, is not my co-pilot. Thank you for watching.